So before I start this review, I just want to quickly say that I'm going to be moving my emotional index video that I was supposed to do today to tomorrow because I did had a dental filling this morning, and I wasn't actually going to plan to do a video because my mouth was kind of numb for a bit after that dental filling. It's getting a little bit better, but most importantly, I do still have a very sore kind of mouth because of the dental filling that I done, and I wasn't planning to do a video today. So when I realized that the U.S. was playing Honduras in tonight's CONCACAF Nations League semifinal, I realized that I'm just gonna have to go get through this pain and have to, of course, do a review of this game because this is a very big game for the U.S. men's national team. It's the first competitive game that the U.S. have played in a couple of years, and probably the first competitive match of this new group and this new identity that the U.S. men's national team is going through. So that's why I had to, of course, do a review of this video, even though I'm gonna right now dealing with some pain around my gum line after that dental filling that I had this morning. But in terms of this match, well, the U.S., they got the win. It was not pretty by any stretch of imagination, and I know there's going to be a lot of U.S. fans that are not going to be happy with this result, even with the 1-0 win, because there were times where this team looked like they were completely lost. But I feel like this is kind of what I expected for the U.S. coming into this game, and especially, as I mentioned, this is the first competitive match with this new group of U.S. player and this new young talented kind of U.S. player trying to get this team to the World Cup, or maybe even win a CONCACAF Nations League trophy. I knew the first competitive game was not going to be pretty. Although early on they kind of did show some of that promising in this game. But first of all, just quickly talking about the starting 11 in this game. We have Zach Steffen, Serginho Dest, Anthony Robinson, John Brooks, Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, Josh Sargent, Christian Pulisic, Mark McKenzie, and Sebastian Lletget in the starting 11 for the U.S. in this game against Honduras. And, I did also kind of wrote Honduras kind of start brightly in the first 5 minutes, and that, I was kind of surprised that Honduras was really going for it early in this game, because this is a Honduran team that is more known to maybe sit back and try to absorb pressure and try to hit teams on the counterattack, especially when they have some very speedy kind of winger on the wing that can basically be very lethal on the break. But once the U.S. kind of deal with that, this is where they started to kind of show some promise on the attack. Gio Reyna did drag a shot wide in the sixth minute, but then in the 10th minute, he almost had a Lionel Messi kind of moment where he basically took on a couple of defenders, even done a couple of defenders in the box, and all he had to do was basically put it into the back of net. But unfortunately, his finishing let him down as he dragged that shot wide, and there was no doubt that was the best opportunity the U.S. had in that game. And if that went in, that would have been a goal that's going to be talked about for a while, and probably one of the best goals I've seen the U.S. men's national team has ever scored. Now, I also mentioned that CBS seems to having the same issue as Fox, as they was just cutting to replay when the action was still on the field, and in fact, I feel like they did it even worse than what Fox did. So one of the biggest criticism in terms of Fox and especially their MLS coverage is that they tends to cut to replay when the action is still happening, and a lot of people were angry about that because, look, there's a big chance happening and you basically just cut to replay. Well, not only the fact that CBS was doing the same thing here, but they did it even more. Like, honestly, whoever was the production team or the lead production team of this, they probably have never actually direct a soccer game, because they were just putting replays like every 10 seconds. Like, even there was time when there was maybe a missed pass, and it seems like that whoever was directing the production saying, oh, you know what, we'll just cut to replay, forget about those important things that's going to happen, let's just cut to replay on the fact that it was a missed pass. Like, honestly, I feel like CBS was thinking this is an NFL game, and that's not how this should be, where you shouldn't just have to cut to replays like every 10 seconds, or even in a case when there is a missed pass there, because if you decide to cut into replay, and if the other team decide to quickly go on the attack, which we saw a lot in this game, you're gonna miss some action. And there was just a couple of times where I can even hear the commentator basically commentating an exciting action that was going on, and the replay was still going. So that was very frustrating. I saw from the CBS Sports Network in terms of covering this game, but I'm hoping it's going to get better from them, because this is really the first time that they are covering the U.S. men's national team as part of the new deal that they have. But in the 13th minute, McKinney did had a free header but missed high, and Weston McKinney should have done better in this instant. Like, he was wide open in the box. I guess maybe he felt like he was surprised that he was that open and just missed that header, but honestly, that has to at least be put on target if you're going to be that open in the box. The ball movement and the build-up, I thought, looked good so far from the U.S., and the possession at around the 23rd minute was 70-30 in favor of the U.S. In the 26 minutes, though, there was a play that looked like Honduras was going to score against the run of play, as Josh Sargent, of all people, actually clear a Honduran header off the line. And then after that, it looks like there was one of the Honduran players basically went down the ground. I think it might have been Elise that might have went on down the ground way too easily. But yeah, there was definitely some pushing and shoving after that. And obviously, Elise and Reina was having some choice words with each other. And, that's what CONCACAF is all about. I mean, you're going to have these kind of shithousery that we're going to see. Although, I thought in this game, well, actually, there was a lot of shithousery, especially what happened in the second half, where it seems like every Honduran player leg was just made out of glass, and they basically went down on the ground like every 10 seconds. But yeah, we didn't really see a lot of shithousery in terms of the fact that both teams was kind of clashed to each other, but we did see in that instant where I feel like Reina was not happy with one of the Honduran players that is clearly dived in the box, and he was having some mean words in terms of expressing that Honduran player that basically tried to dive in the box to draw a penalty. Now, in the 29th minute, Lopez did deny Sargent on the header. I believe that was actually the first shot on goal for the U.S. So, despite the fact that the U.S. was doing a good job in terms of the attack and also in the build-up, they weren't really testing the Honduran goalkeeper Lopez. But again, I thought the build-up has been great from the U.S., but the finishing was not so, and that's pretty much the reason why they really haven't tested the goalkeeper. If your finishing is just going to be putting the shot wide, then the goalkeeper really didn't have to do much and pretty much save a couple of those shots. Now, in the 44th minute, I heard there was a phone ringing in the 44th minute, and originally I thought it was actually my phone that was ringing, so I basically checked my phone, and that doesn't seem like it was the case. So I even checked the other home phone to make sure it's not ringing and I didn't miss a call, and then I just kind of realized that eventually, yeah, it's coming from the production team. And I also was reading the Reddit stream of this game, and a lot of people were talking about how, oh, what did I just hear like a phone ringing, or am I actually going mad right now? And indeed, that seems to be the case. And also, this just shows another example of how I really did not think CBS Sports did a good job in terms of covering the game. But I will give them the pass in terms of the fact that this is really the first soccer game on U.S. soil that they of course cover, and they probably didn't really do. We're still kind of like just trying to get this correctly, and hopefully eventually they of course do it well. But obviously that moment where somebody forgetting to turn their phones and we can clearly hear the phone ringing in the background, that's definitely not a good look in terms of CBS Sports, in terms of how they covered this game. The U.S. I also wrote that was having problem in terms of defending set piece and counter from Honduras. Like, I thought most of the Honduras threat was really on the counter attack, and again, it's not a big surprise because they really have a lot of speedy player going forward and a lot of speedy wingers, and it seems like every time Honduras go on the counter attack, it's either Elise or the other Honduran winger that I actually forgot what his name is, that was leading on on the attack, and that seems like it worked out for Honduras a bit because that was really troubling the U.S. defense. But we had to halftime 0-0 in this game. Now, in the second half, Stefan robbed Lozano in the 50th minute as the flag actually went up. So even if Lozano scored that goal, it wouldn't have counted. But the fact that he was able to go one-on-one with Stefan, that really has a lot that you got to really question the U.S. defense there. And again, that was also coming from a transition where, as I said a couple of seconds ago, how the U.S. was having trouble dealing with the transition. There you go. They literally let a man went one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and if that flag did not went up, or if Stefan did not make a big save, it would have been 1-0 in favor of Honduras during that point. I also wrote that on the attack, those good build-up that we saw from the U.S. early in this game, yeah, they were non-existent early in the second half, and were really non-existent throughout the second half. And I also wonder with the way that this game is played in Denver, and because of the altitude, you wonder maybe it's because some of these U.S. players are starting to run out of gas, and that's kind of a little bit concerning to see that, because knowing the fact that the U.S. are going to be playing Mexico soon, I'm assuming probably Mexico is going to beat Costa Rica tonight, but if they do play against Mexico in that final, and if they do kind of run out of gas in the second half, and especially if they are going to find themselves chasing the game, that might not be a good sign with the way that this team kind of faded in the second half, mainly because there was some fatigue and that the altitude really started to get to the player. But I also kind of wrote the pace of the game really was coming almost to a halt with just tons of stoppage, and a lot of that has to do with a lot of injuries from the Honduran side. And you notice I quoted the word injuries, because no, there were not injuries whatsoever. Honduras knew what they were doing. They were doing their classic CONCACAF kind of way, where a bunch of players are just going to pretend that they're going to injure and just continue to practice the dark arts, so that this game can basically come to a halt and hopefully gets this one into penalty. And it looked like that was the case. As the clock was winding down, I thought for sure that this was going to go to a penalty kick shootout. But then in the 89th minute, the U.S. finally broke through. And it's Sibachu that scores from Aronson and McKinney to give the U.S. a 1-0 lead. So Sibachu, who of course came into this game just a couple of minutes ago, making an instant impact. And the U.S. finally got that breakthrough and really finally broke through that Honduran defense that was really just parking the bus for the last couple of minutes and tried to get to a penalty kick shootout. But that being said, knowing the fact that Honduras realized that they're down 1-0, they look like they're going to. They notice that they have to, of course, get the equalizer. And at least in the early part, after the U.S. scored that goal, they were really pressing on the U.S. And I thought the U.S. was going to be committing a classic mistake of you're always, of course, being the most vulnerable when you, of course, score. And yeah, there was just a couple of nervy moments there after the U.S., of course, got the opener, and that Honduras almost got the equalizer immediately after the U.S. took the lead late in the game. But ultimately, the U.S. did hold on to get the 1-0 lead, or the 1-0 win in this game. And the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 7 that Houston, or not Houston, but Honduras had. I don't know why I wrote H-O-U. It should be H-O-O-N there. But yeah, both teams had 4 shots on goal. I mean, in some way, it's kind of the Houston Dynamo, because this Honduran team had a lot of Houston Dynamo players, like guys like Albert Feliz and Bonet Garcia was playing in this, and even former Dynamo player Mino Figueroa was playing for, or actually not former Dynamo player, current Dynamo player Mino Figueroa was also playing in this game. I don't know why I said former Dynamo player when he's actually playing for the Dynamo. So in some way, you could say that this is kind of like the Houston Dynamo playing against the U.S. in this one. But yeah, going back to the stats, 2 shots off target compared to the 4 that the U.S. had, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 2 that the U.S. had, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Honduras has in this game. And like I said, I know this is not pretty, and I know U.S. fans are not going to see this game as a way to give them confidence that this team can do well in the next game in the final. where they presumably is going to be facing Mexico, or even in the World Cup qualifying. But at the end of the day, it was just so important for me to see this team to get a result in a competitive game, because as much as I've seen the U.S. won a lot of these friendly in the past, I really want to see this team get those win when it really matters. And in this game, when it does matter, they of course got the job done. And now let's see if the next game, as I mentioned, when they do face either Mexico or Costa Rica, can they of course build that momentum and potentially win the CONCACAF Nation League. And if they also do win the CONCACAF Nations League, let's see if that momentum can even further go into the World Cup qualifying, which this World Cup qualifying, I think this is probably the biggest World Cup qualifying the U.S. men's national team has ever faced in their history. I mean, this is really the one that there's really no excuse for this U.S. team to not do well in the World Cup qualifying, and that there's definitely going to be a lot of pressure with this team, knowing the fact that we saw a couple of years ago with this team missing the World Cup, and that there's just no way that this team can afford to do the same thing in this upcoming World Cup qualifying period. But either way, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this game, as always. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.